I want to welcome everybody to another edition of our Market Insider Series webinar. We've got some great information for those of you who have been on these before. We're going to go through this really fast, cover as much information as we can in a short period of time. And if there's an area that piques your interest, you just have to have more information. You can't wait to learn more. That's why we've got the local experts here. My name is Scott Fuller, founder of leavingthebayarea.com and leavingsocal.com. And for those of you who are new, don't know what we do, as the name suggests, we help people find a better quality of life, more affordability, whatever you're looking for. That's what we do. And we do this through some of our excellent real estate broker partners across the US, which we're going to be talking with 3 of them today. Couple quick housekeeping items before we make some introductions here. This will be recorded. So if for some reason you want to rewatch it at a later time, or maybe if you have somebody, a friend, a family member, a coworker that says, wow, you know, they could really get some good information out of this, I'd like to pass it on. Sharing is caring. So we will have the final produced copy of this webinar, 3 or 4 business days. Email us at info@leavingthebayarea.com, info@leavingthebayarea.com. Be happy to send you a finished copy, and you can do whatever you please with that. So I want to welcome my guests today. Really excited to have them here. We've got Chris Snow with eXp Realty in the Jacksonville, Florida area, Diane Click with Bozeman Brokers in Bozeman, Montana, Faith Harmer with Urban Nest Realty in Las Vegas. We are covering a huge geographic area today, right? Lots of different climates. We were just talking about it. We're going to have some fun with this. So we're going to start with Faith. Faith, why don't you give us a brief intro of who you are and what you do?
Like I said, I'm Faith Harmer. I have a team of all women, and we call it Faith and Team. I've been a Las Vegas real estate agent for over 25 years. So about a little over 100 transactions a year, and have loved living there for about 26 years. Fantastic place to live, and no state tax.
No state income tax. We're going to hear that again. Okay. Thank you, Faith. I appreciate that. Let's move on over to your left on my screen is Diane Click. Diane, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, Scott. I'm Diane Click, and I'm a broker partner with Bozeman Brokers Real Estate in fabulous Bozeman, Montana. And started selling real estate in 1995, so just over 25 years myself, so same as Faith. And I'm a top producer in my market and love what I do. I'm very active with the Realtor Association on both the state level and the local level, as well as president of the local cancer support community. So everybody in my team, we believe in giving back to the community because the community has given so much to us. So thanks for having me today.
Diane, it sounds like you have plenty of free time, just like everybody else, right? You're not.
You know, we're all overachievers.
Okay, thanks, Diane. Let's pass it over to Chris Snow.
Chris Snow, and I'm down in St. Augustine in Jacksonville, Florida. It's in the northeast section of the state. I've been selling real estate for 17 years, so been in the St. Augustine marketplace for right about 15 of those 17 years. So it's been interesting to see the growth that we've had. And like Faith, we have no state income tax here in Florida. So that's been a nice little piece as people are migrating to our area. I do run a small team. We sold just over 220 homes last year, and planning to do a little bit more this year. And we think that a lot in part for the people who are coming to Florida, leaving the Northeast, leaving the West Coast, and making Florida their home. So
awesome. Okay, thanks so much, Chris. Okay, so let's talk about kind of what's going on in the market. As we know, all areas really have experienced a very high level of growth, a high influx of people moving into the areas. Faith, I want to start with you. So tell us about what you're seeing that's causing the growth in the market from either a business or company standpoint, just general migration, where you're seeing a lot of your clients, where they're coming from.
Well, the vast majority of our clients, probably 40 to 50% are coming from California, because it's so close. So if people want to leave California for reasons like not paying state tax or the ease of opening a business, because it's much easier to open and run a business in the state of Nevada, they can still come to Las Vegas and only be 3.5 to 5.5 hours away from their family and friends, or right back to the beach. So we get a lot there, but we also get a lot from Florida. Or we get, people who want their winter homes, their snowbird homes in Las Vegas. Maybe they're tired of the humidity or whatever, or the snow. And so they like to live in two places. But mostly California, Florida, not much from Idaho, mostly, I think some of the other states I come from, but those are the two main ones.
Okay, got it. And talk about, so I know you have, I always hear the cities, Henderson, Summerlin. Tell us
Yes.
a little about what kind of growth you're seeing in those areas and what's prompting that growth there in those cities.
Well, we have three cities that comprise the Las Vegas Valley. So we have the city of Las Vegas, the city of North Las Vegas, and the city of Henderson. And it all blends together, and we have one MLS, thank goodness, for all three of them. So we can search all those areas, and we can also search into the outlying area of Pahrump, which is also really growing lately because it's more rural, bigger plots of land. They can be outside of the city a little bit. When people are coming in from out of state, the most popular place that they're hearing about is Summerlin and Henderson. Those two areas have exploded over the last really 20 years. They're considered the higher end areas with the better schools, better shopping, that kind of thing. So you will pay more per square foot to purchase in Summerlin and Henderson. However, the city of North Las Vegas has been one of the fastest growing cities in the United States for the last probably 10 years. A lot of people, when they come here, some like they're riding the cab or whatever, and somebody will tell them, oh, don't live in North Las Vegas. But there are very nice parts of North Las Vegas that are developing very quickly. Over by Nellis Air Force Base is a lot of like Amazon super centers, Google centers. My son is an electrician, and he's been working on a lot of really big Google data centers in Las Vegas. Plus, we've had all the sports teams come in, so almost kind of like legitimize Las Vegas because we have more sports teams. We have performing arts now. So we've just really grown as a city to be able to offer all the things that people want.
And there is life outside of the Strip, right? Because most people think if they visited, they're like, I don't want to live in Las Vegas, just live by the Strip. That's just a vacation place. Well, no, there's actually life outside of that, right?
I always tell people, you know what, we watch it on TV just like you do. When you live there, like sometimes people will reach out and say, I want to live within 15 minutes of the Strip. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And then, or they'll come to look and they've never been anywhere outside of the Strip. And once they start driving around looking at neighborhoods, they'll always come back to us and say, wow, I had no idea you guys had such nice neighborhoods here. We have some really beautiful neighborhoods, from very affordable all the way up to millions and very high end. And we've been getting a lot of buyers actually buying $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 million homes that they aren't even moving into just as an investment, that they're like not even doing anything with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that you have a big second home market similar to Phoenix area, and there's a lot of very, very beautiful communities, a lot of new construction, a lot of resale opportunities. Tell us about what you can find, because people are starting to get a little bit nervous. Am I priced out of whatever city, right? So Las Vegas, for example, what can you expect to get in some of these neighborhoods that we're talking about at the $500,000 price point, and then let's go up to like maybe the $900,000 price point?
Well, I kind of broke it down into 4 sections. I did the Northwest, North Las Vegas, Henderson, and Summerlin. So a lot of times if Summerlin is not affordable for someone, we will take them up to the Northwest area, which is still very nice. You can get to Summerlin in 10 to 20 minutes. And in the Northwest area, if you're looking, of course, this all depends on how big the lot is, the amenities, that kind of stuff. But for a one-story home, you can actually get anywhere from 1,500 square foot home to 3,500 square feet, depending on location and lot size, whether it's on a golf course or not. For a two-story home, you can get anywhere between a 2,200 and a 4,500 square foot home. It's definitely more affordable than Summerlin or Henderson. North Las Vegas, there's actually even less available than any of the other cities. But for a one-story, you can get 2,600 to 3,000 square foot home, and for a two-story, 2,800 to 4,500 square foot home. Henderson is for one story is 1,500 to 2,600, two stories 2,100 to 3,800. Summerlin for one story is 1,400 to 2,600, and two stories 1,600 to 3,100. Now, a lot of people, especially when spring comes, all I hear is, I want a house with a pool. So if you start looking in the spring and you want a home with a pool, you're going to have a lot more competition. Not that the ones without pools don't sell, but we do it gets us hot. You know, people want us pool here. North Las Vegas, again, that's the most affordable area that you can go, but it's growing and the price is climbing a lot. Our average, let's see, our median home price for all of those cities together is about 420,000, with Henderson obviously being the highest. So our average listing price for Henderson is about 625,000. Now, I don't know about everywhere else, but our inventory had been going up a little bit, and now it has drastically dropped. It had been staying right around 3,300 to 3,600 for single family available homes. We down to, I just pulled stats today, we dropped down to only a little under 2,200 available homes on the market for like 2.5 million people. That is not enough. That's not including brand new homes, but still very, very low inventory.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see, as you know, obviously we're a little bit off peak season right now. We'll start to see in the next couple of months some inventory come onto the market. Faith, thanks so much for giving us some of those stats. I want to pass it over to Diane. So Diane, tell us kind of what's causing the growth. It's interesting because you've been doing this in your market, like you said, for 25 years. I've seen just over the last few years an increase in interest in Montana, specifically Bozeman, which was probably, at least for me, maybe I was hiding under a rock, but you know, that was just kind of more off the radar. But then as we were seeing some of the statistics come out of home price increases and demand, Montana's leading that, which is just amazing to me. So tell us kind of what's driving the growth in your market, who the buyers are, where they're coming from.
Well, it's interesting. There's so many facets to that question. You know, people have been coming to the Rocky Mountain states in droves for about a decade. I think what put fuel on that fire is COVID. About 2 years ago, people said, I can work wherever I want to work. And I can work where I have public schools that are rated among the top in the nation, public schools. So I don't have to pay for, you know, private school care and things like that. So people are coming for a quality of life because we do have income tax in Montana. It's not high. It just went down in 2022. The top rate is 6.7%. But we don't have any sales tax here. So the tourists love that. They can come and spend their money and not pay any sales tax. But what's driving it is, I really want to say the reason you have the website is a quality of life. We have level 3 trauma medical center. We have top rated schools. We have Montana State University that brings us culture, events, sporting events and things like that. I'm sitting back and kind of chuckling when I hear about inventory levels dropping to thousands of homes. Right now in Bozeman, there's probably a dozen single family homes actively on the market.
Is that right?
A dozen. And I'm going to say there are hundreds of people looking.
Wow. So
not,
Diane, are
thousands
these
looking? So we have not in any shape or form kept up with the building demand that is coming our way. So a little background, Bozeman is in Gallatin Valley, and we have 3 towns. We have Bozeman, Belgrade, and Manhattan. And Belgrade has always been like the little sister to Bozeman, a little bit more affordable. Well, that's changing too. But right now, I'm going to jump to your next question is what can you buy for $500,000?
Sure.
Well, in Bozeman, you're in a condo. You're not probably in a single family home. If you want a single family home in the $500,000 range, you're in Belgrade. For $900,000, you can get a nice, beautiful luxury home in Bozeman, probably starting around $750,000. You approach
Okay.
that single family quality luxury home in Bozeman. And if you have $900,000 to spend, you could probably get some acreage, but not a ton of acreage and not a ton of square footage. You're probably looking in that 2,500 square foot range for $900,000. I mean, our prices have shot up over 50% year over year.
It's just amazing. So are most of the buyer or a good percentage of the buyers, is it second home? Is it just seasonal? They're coming out in the summertime, or are they actually moving there permanently?
It used to be about 40% of the buyers were income investors or second homes. That's dropped to about 25%. We're seeing people coming to stay. The
Yeah.
other phenomenon we're seeing, and I don't know if you see it in other areas, is kind of the multi-generational factor. Bozeman's a very young town. We have a lot of students who then become workforce people in our town, and they have children. And then parents come and they move here. So we have that kind of multi-generational buying that's happening here. It's become a great retirement area, even though it's cold. You know, a lot of retirees, especially from Minnesota or Washington, you know, think our weather is just fine in the wintertime. We used to not get as many Southern California folks. They're coming in droves and they're coming to stay and live. Last year was my highest number of families or just buyers from Southern California.
Yeah, and it must, like you said, Diane, it must be kind of the remote work, right? People have this type of flexibility and they're like, if I'm going to go work remote, I want to be more remote, right? I want to distance myself from these huge metro areas. And we hear that quite a bit with people who are going to some of, you know, these smaller towns.
So Bozeman just became a metropolitan. We've been the fastest growing micropolitan in the nation, but we hit that 50,000 mark. So now we're a big city, but the infrastructure here is what is bringing people here. You know, like I said, with the hospital system that we have here, the culture, our airport is the largest in the state of Montana. We have the largest private airport right next to our public airport for all the jet centers down, you know, the jet setters down in Big Sky. There's a lot of money down in Big Sky coming here as well. We have 24 nonstop flights that go to major metropolitan areas around the country, from Florida, Texas, you know, New Jersey, New York, and lots in California. So people can get on a plane and within 2 to 4 hours be in this beautiful paradise we call Bozeman.
Absolutely.
I have to
Oh,
say,
that's awesome.
I love your airport. I've been to your airport. I have a cousin that lives there and I love it.
It's like a lodge, you know, it's got fireplaces. You just want to wear your fuzzy boots and walk around with a drink in your hand, you know?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Chris, let's move it over to you. So, you know, you look at some of the recent statistics like U-Haul, they do an annual survey where most all their trucks are going, and Florida wins this year. I think last year Texas won, but Florida wins this year with the most trucks going into the state. Tell us kind of how that's impacting your market. I know you cover from, you know, Jacksonville south to St. Augustine, but tell us kind of what you're seeing is causing the growth, aside from people wanting no state income tax and the beautiful weather. We'll take out the obvious.
There you go. In the county where my office is located and where we do a majority of our work is St. Johns County, which is St. Augustine. For the last 10 years, it has been a destination spot for people that are looking to get into a great state with great schools, but more specifically, what county in the state of Florida has the best schools? It's St. Johns counties. So we see more and more people that are coming specifically for the schools. From a business standpoint, the military is still a big presence here. So we've got a couple of major military bases, NAS Jackson, Mayport those are our two big military installations. So we constantly have people who are coming in and out through the military. And as far as employers, we're getting more banking centers that are opening up here. Ameris Bank. We've got Fidelity National, which is the big title company. Their headquarters are here. Google has started, or not Google, but Amazon has put several stations on the north side of town up near our airport. So that's fueled some additional growth above and beyond what we were seeing before. But as Diane was saying, with people now going, wow, I can live anywhere that I want without regard to being close to an office space, where do I want to be? And our affordability in Northeast Florida is still probably one of the most affordable parts of the state, just from an overall quality of life standpoint. When you look at Miami, you look at Orlando, you look at Tampa, those are bigger metro areas, but the cost of living is a lot higher. It's not as easy to navigate and travel throughout the city. Everything seems to be a little bit more gridlock. We still have a lot of green space, a lot of land here. Jacksonville as a metro area is the biggest land city in the United States. So we've got plenty of room for growth, so you don't feel like you're on top of one another.
And so I know that as you get in, buy along the coast, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but how does affordability factor in if you're really kind of along the coast in those coastal cities versus going inland, maybe 10 to 20 miles?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's definitely a stark difference. Now we have three kind of waterways or opportunities for people to live in what I would say premium areas. One is direct oceanfront, so the ability to either walk to the ocean or see the ocean. That's going to be one part of it. Then we have the intracoastal waterway that runs from, basically, I think it's up in DC, goes all the way down to Miami and just out to Miami to, as you it empties out right there in the Atlantic and just south of Miami. But that waterway is a great place where people want to buy, have water view, not be on the direct ocean, but have the ability to put your boat in and travel up and down. So it's a whole boating lifestyle. And then we got just a little bit further inland, we've got the St. Johns River, which again is the same thing. It's just that it's a bigger body of water and a lot more opportunities for people to buy on that. But from an affordability standpoint, if you're on what we would consider the east side of the intracoastal waterway, which is basically between the intercoastal and the ocean, it's going to be a lot more expensive than if you just come off of there. And when I say that is that, you might look at a $200,000 or $300,000 difference in price to be 10 miles, a 10-mile spread there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. But if you looked at our market and our region as a whole and just said, okay, if I'm sold on moving anywhere in and around the greater Jacksonville, St. Augustine area, and you had $500,000 to spend, that's going to get you on average about a 2,500 square foot house. Average days on market's about 28 days on the market, and most of them are selling right at asking price. The highest sale that we had in that price point that was above asking, it listed at 500, it sold at 745. That's way out of the norm, but it could happen for the right property. And then if you bump up that price point to the 900 range, that's going to get you about 3,300 square feet. You're still paying right at asking price, even at that higher price point. Until the last 2 years, our average price point in our area is about 275, 280,000. That shot up to almost 400,000 since the pandemic started.
Yeah. And are most of the sales that you're making, is it for families that are moving into the area, maybe relocating from the Northeast, or is it still a high percentage of retirees?
Mainly for us, it's families.
Interesting.
And again, I think, and this is going to sound a little funny with someone from Montana that probably sees, much colder temperatures, but our average temperature during the wintertime is about 55, 56 degrees, which for us in Florida, that's cold. That's seasonal weather. You got 4 seasons. You start getting a little bit further south, like my dad He lived about an hour south of where Jacksonville, St. Augustine is. And for him, that was still too cold. So he wanted to go even further south and get a little bit more, definitely warmer weather and just have a little bit more consistency of weather throughout the year.
Got it. Okay. And I do want to get into climate a little bit more, but just a reminder for the attendees who have joined us right now, if you have any questions for any of our panelists here, there's a Q&A box. If you go to the bottom of your Zoom window, you'll be able to pop up a Q&A box. You can type it in there. We'll answer it verbally. We won't type the answer back. Or you can also go into the chat window, which you could also pop up. So either one of those work fine. Feel free to throw out your questions. Want to make sure we get everything covered here as much as we can during our short period of time. Chris, we were talking a little bit about, you kind of touched on climate a little bit. So, two things that usually come to mind, or at least people mention to me when they're considering going to Florida. One is the risk of hurricanes, right? Severe weather, and also humidity. So talk to us a little bit about how your area is impacted, or maybe not quite as impacted versus some other areas of Florida.
Right. Great question. So humidity for us, we have 2 really heavy months of humidity. That's going to be getting to the tail end of July, 1st of August until about mid-September. Those are our 2, about 60 days that it's heavy humidity. So we might have 65, 70, 75% humidity outside. It's only about 90, 88, 89, 90 degrees outside, but it feels like it's 110. It doesn't matter where you walk, you're going to start sweating. But as far as the hurricanes are concerned, that's one of the reasons why I think people like the Northeast Florida area, is that the last time we had a direct hurricane hit was like 1964, 1965. Some of the other areas, more major areas of Florida, even Orlando being in the center part of the state, has had more hurricane activity than us here in Northeast Florida. And it's just the way that we sit in the Northeast part of the state, the way the state bends back in and then bends back out as it goes into Georgia, kind of creates this jet stream that pushes any of that inclement weather that's coming up the coast, just kind of keeps pushing it out into the back out into the Atlantic and up into the Cape Hatteras, the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So we're very fortunate here, but yeah, the number one question people ask me was, when's the last time you got hit by a hurricane? Do you get a lot of flooding? In our area, we just don't. During the last 2 hurricanes, those were 2 of the worst flooding incidents that we've had in the last 100 years in Northeast Florida. So we did get hit, but it was storm surge. It had nothing to do with the actual hurricane making landfall here.
And so how do insurance requirements fit around that? Is it, because some people would be concerned, well, am I going to be paying very high rates of insurance because of the possibility of these natural disasters?
If you're direct oceanfront, yeah. If you're inside the coastal construction line, yes, you're going to get hit with that. If you're east of the intercoastal, you're going to see a little bit higher rates on that. If you've got a mortgage, they're going to require flood insurance. The FEMA flood maps are right there. But a majority of our area is flood zone X, which all of Florida, because we're a low state as it is anyway, all of Florida is in a flood zone. Flood zone X to us is the best flood zone, and a good portion of our area that we sell in is all flood zone X. So, but just to give you an idea, $400,000-$500,000 property that's not directly on the ocean, just let's say 5 miles from the ocean, you're going to pay $1,800 to $2,000 a year for insurance.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Let's pass it over to Faith. So Faith, obviously, we talked about this earlier, 3 completely different climate environments, probably the 3 most extreme that we would find in the country here, which is pretty cool. So Faith, you obviously you're in a desert like I am. So tell us kind of, what you can expect. Obviously the winter months are very, very mild, and 7-8 months out of the year, it's probably beautiful, but what are you going to expect out of those, those 3, maybe 4 months in the summertime?
Well, the thing I always say is the great part about living in Las Vegas is you never have to worry about your house being wiped out by a forest fire, a hurricane, or tornado. I mean, this is not going to happen. So,
and you won't melt, right? You're promising us you're not going to melt.
It's dry heat. So what I tell people is So the summertime is maybe kind of like the wintertime in Montana. So you just do more indoor activities. That's all you do. And everywhere is air conditioned. So just going from your house to your car, it can be hot, but if you're already cooled down, it's not humid. So if if you're standing in the shade, or if you're in a pool, even if it's 115 degrees and you're in the shade, you're still okay. You travel everywhere with a water bottle in the summertime. You want to make sure you have plenty of water with you. But other than that, now the winters do get a lot colder than a lot of people realize. I know when I've bought cars before, the car salesman always gives me a hard time because I'm like, I want heated seats. And he's like, what do you want heated seats for in Las Vegas? But it gets cold. I mean, it last week and the week before, it was in the 20s and 30s. So it will freeze. I had a water fountain outside one time and had big icicles hanging off of it. Nobody believed me till I took a picture. But it does get cold. So, but other than that, it's really uneventful. In the summertime, like August, we can have flash floods. And so you do have to be aware of that. They don't last very long, but you don't want to go in the water that's too deep because it can sweep your car away. When rain hits the dirt in Las Vegas, it doesn't really absorb. So it turns kind of like into concrete, and it just stays on there and creates this flooding effect. But the city of Las Vegas has done a really good job over the last 20 years putting in a lot of flood control channels. And since they've done that, we haven't had much of an issue. And honestly, I can't even recall any flash floods for the last 3 to 5 years. We used to have them every summer, and we haven't really had any this last couple summers. So other than that, weather's pretty uneventful in Las Vegas.
Uneventful could be good.
On sunshine.
Yeah, well, and you know, the monsoons I think that you're talking about, those are just, if you've never seen those before, they're incredible to watch. You get these beautiful lightning storms and they dump a lot of rain really fast and then they're gone. But it's really cool if you haven't seen them before.
They are great.
Let's pass it over to Diane. So Diane, obviously where you're at gets a little bit colder, you know, than areas of California. So tell us, you know, in the wintertime, what can people expect? How would you prepare for the climate?
Well, the wonderful thing about the Rocky Mountains is it can get some Arctic air, you know, so days it could be in the zeros or teens, but it will pop right back up like it is today in the 40s or 30s, and it's a dry cold, so it doesn't feel that cold. So our temperatures really fluctuate. It's not like the Midwest where it could stay just frigid for a very long time. We have a lot of Western influence from the Pacific, so we'll get storms and snow, but you can expect 30s, 40s during the day, and then teens in the evening, teens or 20s in the evening. But, you know, what Chris doesn't know is I'm originally from Miami, Florida, go Hurricanes. And I gravitated to the Rocky Mountains because I love mountains. I love skiing. And I lived in Chicago also at one time in my life. And my motto is, if you're going to have cold weather, have snow and have ski resorts nearby.
Yep.
It makes the winters pleasurable and fun. It's a great environment to raise kids because you get them out and, you know, get them skiing or get them just making snowmen and playing in the snow. So unlike those cold days, we don't stay inside. We go out and we embrace it.
That's a great point, Diane, because really you do. And, you know, for those of us who have grown up in snow, it's a winter wonderland. I guess the only downside is, you know, when you're a little bit older, you're having to shovel yourself out potentially, you know, but how much snow do you typically
That's why it's
expect,
a young
Diane?
town.
What's that?
That's why Bozeman's a young town.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's right. It's fun and young. Yeah. How much snow can you expect, Diane, in your area?
In town, you'll have, like right now, it's probably a half a foot on the ground right now, and in the mountains, feet. I mean, definitely it gets up there. I also wanted to point out one thing because, you know, insurance is a big thing wherever you are in Florida with hurricanes and flooding. And what's happened with us in Montana are rural properties that are in the mountains. The premium on their insurance has gone way up because of fires. So you won't experience that premium jump on a single family home in downtown Bozeman, Belgrade, Manhattan, but you'll see quite the premium jump on these, these cabins in the woods or luxury homes where you have trees all around you. That
Yeah.
just happened last year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, with everything going on in the Northern California, in Southern Pacific Northwest, right? It seems like that's kind of just rolling into, potential issues, other areas as well.
We're all paying for it, Scott, in one way or another,
Yeah, that's right. Robert makes a comment, skiing in California, Lake Tahoe region is super expensive. Yes, it is. Beautiful area, but it's gotten very, very pricey. Yeah. So if you can make a trip out to Bozeman and, a couple weeks to do some skiing, have some fun out there, it's certainly worth the trip. Let's talk a little bit about kind of what you guys are seeing. I know it's hard to pull out the crystal ball, but what are you guys, and Diane, I'll start with you. What are you seeing as far as market projections in your area? Do you think this madness is going to continue for 12 months, 24, beyond? Any thoughts to that?
I think it will continue beyond 24 months. We're dealing with a population, the entire valley is probably approaching 120,000 people. You could fit that in one of your neighborhoods in Las Vegas, right, Faith? Yeah. So we have so much room for expansion, and people are coming in droves again for the schools, the way of life. My only concern is, prices are being buoyed because of the lack of inventory. And unless we can figure out how to plat more land quickly, how to get land prices reasonable, for workforce housing, that's a big concern. It's okay if you're a retiree, it's okay if you have means, but we definitely need a lot more housing for the demand that's coming here.
Well, Diane, what are you recommending to your clients? Because obviously it is a very, very competitive market. A lot of times you're competing with a dozen or more people putting in an offer, especially with your inventory levels low as they are. What are you recommending to people that their offer can stand out to give them a better chance of being accepted? Aside from, going up 200,000 over asking.
And putting a picture of your golden doodle with your letter, with the
Whatever
offer.
it takes, right? Yeah.
I hate to say this, but cash is king, right? Because you normally don't have an appraisal provision. You could do appraisal protection. That certainly helps a little bit if you have the means to protect yourself, if the appraisal doesn't come where you need it to be. Patience is what I'm going to recommend. Not everybody can pay cash for their $800,000 house, but they can put 20-30% down. What I say to them is have patience, make a clean offer, and do what's comfortable. A lot of people say you must do this to get a house, but I always have to ask my client, are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with paying more than whatever an appraisal comes in at, knowing it's just an opinion? So there's a lot of counseling that goes along when you have such a limited inventory and such great amount of demand. But definitely cash is king, always has been, always will be.
Yeah, just having the right.
Pardon me?
I was just going to say, just having the right expectations up front, that you might have to get up to bat a couple of times, right, before you get the home run. And so, like you said, being patient is huge.
Absolutely. And what we're also seeing is, especially with the 20, 30-year-olds, are parents helping out and helping pay for homes in cash and then putting the financing on the back end. And you typically will pay maybe 25 basis points more for that action, but you get into a home faster. Because buyers in our market get weary, after, if you put in a lot of offers, let's say you're only a 10% down buyer and you're on your 7th offer, you get weary, and your expectations get dashed. And so it's up to us to kind of keep them along,
Well, it does. And at a certain point, it gets a little bit emotional, right? I mean, it kind of drives you down, but you've really just kind of got to stay the course and remember what the end goal was. So Diane, thanks for those tips. Chris, I'll pass it over to you. So what are you seeing projections, for the next couple of years here? And how,
At,
how
at,
can, buyers stand out in your market?
yeah, at a minimum, the next 12 months, nothing's changing. It's actually going to get probably a little bit worse. The last 9 weeks straight, we've had inventory continue to reduce, even though this is a little bit of an off time of year. We traditionally will see a bump right after the first of the year with people who didn't want to have their house on the market during the holidays. We would normally see a little bit more of a rush of new inventory coming on. That's not happening. We're a metro area of about 1.3 million people, so a little bit smaller than Faith there in Vegas, but we've got a total of 1,800 homes for sale, and 500 of those are new construction. So, we do have quite a bit of new construction going on here. There's a lot of inventory that's not showing new construction wise. The downside that we have is that a lot of the builders are playing the inventory game, and they are holding back inventory even though they could release it out. They are doing price adjustments every 3 sales. They are bumping up prices. So it's that constant drip, drip, drip. And so, when it comes to standing out, we're trying to position people as best we can to be prepared that you're going to have to go over market. You're not going to have an appraisal that's going to cover it. You're going to have a big appraisal gap, and be okay that what you're going to pay for it in today's market is a little bit higher than what, again, the appraiser can prove or their opinion of the value. But if they wait and they don't get this house today, if they tried to buy that same exact house 6 months from now, they're going to pay 15 to 17% more. So pay 3 or 4% more today, or pay 17% more later on down the road.
Sure.
You might as well, get it over with. And do it while rates are still pretty low. And I saw an interesting infographic that just that little bit of adjustment in a financed rate on a $500,000 house, you're paying more, in 6 months by paying $50,000 more at a higher interest rate, or $50,000 more today at a higher interest rate than $50,000 less. If the market corrected at a higher interest rate, your payment's about $300 more. So it was an interesting infographic. So.
Yeah, and with interest rates, I mean, we just don't know which direction. We keep hearing that rates will probably go up, and we'll see what happens for 2022. But I think all signs point to, at some point, they're artificially low. They're going to have to go up at
Right.
some point. The borrowing money right now is very, very cheap. And I'm not expecting that's going to last. Faith, let's wrap up with you on this one. So, what are your projections in your market? Do you see anything changing, staying the same, and what are you advising your clients?
Well, with the inventory drop and inventory, because when I first started real estate, the normal number of homes on the market was 10 to 12,000. That was a balanced market. So when I'm throwing out these numbers of only like 2,900 available homes, that's very, very low, which creates a lot of competition. I do anticipate that it's going to continue to grow because we just have so many people wanting to move into Las Vegas because of the weather and the state taxes. And then also our property taxes are really low. They're generally 1% or less. So it's still very affordable living in Las Vegas, even though the prices have gone up quite a bit.
We have a question from Jerry. This is for Chris. Chris, please talk about the long-term and short-term rental market.
Yeah, so as you get a little bit closer to the beaches areas, or in our market area, the historic downtown area, they do have pockets that allow you to do nightly and 2 and 3 night rentals, operating more like the Airbnbs and the small hotel, even though it's a single family home. That has really pushed up the price of homes, because now all of a sudden, where you may only get about $3,000 a month on a 1 month rental, you can get $4,000 to $5,000 a month renting it out nightly. So what it's done is now people are now selling those homes not based on the appraised value and what other homes have sold for. They're really looking at it as an income generator, going, I don't care what it appraises for. You can get $60,000 of revenue on this. So my value, if you want a 10% return, your value is going to be 500, 550. Right. So they're starting to value it more there. So as long as we see more and more of those long-term renters, rental properties converting over in those areas to more short-term, nightly and weekly type rentals, you're going to see even that that second home market start to push up a little bit more. Yeah, and hopefully that answered the question there.
Yeah, that's a great point, Chris, that we didn't talk about. You know, the three markets that we're talking about are big on, you know, vacation rentals or seasonal rentals, things like that. And a large percentage of these owners, unless if the HOA explicitly prohibits it, which a lot are starting to do now, if they can afford it, that's a whole different story. But we're seeing a lot of those people look at it and say, if I can generate 5-6 grand a month, you know, like you said, would be normally a $3,500 income, they're willing to pay a much higher price. And, you know, vacation rentals, corporate rentals for people who are just in the area, you know, 6 to 12 months before they actually purchase something because they're new to the area.
Yeah.
So for investors, it's a huge opportunity in a lot of these markets. And so that's a great point, Chris.
Well, one thing, and reading the second part of Jerry's question there, the long-term rental market has gone up about 50% as well. And so homes that were renting out for $1,800 to $2,000 a year ago, because so many people have moved to the area, they got beat out on purchasing a home, they've fallen back on the rental market. So now all of a sudden the rental market, it's harder to find a rental than it is a single family home to purchase. And because the landlords now can get the pick of the litter, trying to qualify for a rental is a lot harder now than it was. And, you know, we've got homes just in my own neighborhood that were rent out for about $2,000. They're now renting out for $3,500. And it's all day long, you know, and there's no rentals. And when you go look for active rentals, there's like a handful. There are fewer rentals available than there are homes for sale.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Jerry,
Yep.
hopefully that answered your question. If not, feel free to throw out a follow-up on that. Had a question from Robert, and I'll leave this up to whoever would like to address this. We lost an offer on a house because I wanted to take a close look at the HOA financials, which makes sense. My CPA said unaudited HOAs are of not much value. What about reserves and unfunded debt? Anybody like to address that?
Well, in Las Vegas, we have not a due diligence period, but a 5-day period where the buyer has the right to look at all of those documents. The seller has to order the package within 1 business day of receipt of their offer. And we usually come in within 10 days. They have 5 days to review it. And if there's something in there they don't like, then they can cancel and get their earnest money back. So in Las Vegas, that's just the standard thing. HOAs are huge in Las Vegas, and they're very serious. So when you buy an HOA, so
yeah, and I think that applies to a lot of areas. I mean, every area is going to be a little bit different on what the formalities are for due diligence or contingencies, you know, depending on the state. And Robert, I'm not sure which state you're referring to. But, you know, obviously part of your diligence process, while you're going through the preliminary title report, you're going through the HOA documents, look at the minutes, look at the financials, everything else, you know, certainly. And this, I think, becomes a little bit more of a concern when you get into townhomes and condos, is assessments, upcoming assessments, historical assessments, and, you know, the financial well-being of the HOA itself. So certainly would advise that you do look at that, but there should be something in your contract that gives you an opportunity to review that information. So anyhow.
Yeah, I think for Robert's perspective, like what we're encouraging our buyers to do is do anything you can to get that house under contract, and anything that requires additional negotiating, do that during the due diligence period. Because it will give you some additional time. If you want to throw something in there, instead of waiting on the HOA or somebody to provide something so that you can decide whether you want to make an offer or not, again, make that as a contingency right in the offer. If you need something above and beyond the our market area, on average, it's about 10-day due diligence period. Sometimes an HOA is not going to be able to respond during that time period. So you can do a separate clause that says, it's conditioned upon satisfactory review of the homeowners association statement and financials, and leave it very generic, that it doesn't bring a lot of attention, that, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And when you're not specifying that time period, it literally can take you all the way up until the day of closing. And if they don't give it to you until the day before closing, you're still well within your rights to cancel and
That's
still
right.
receive your binder back. So,
Yeah, good point. Okay, so I think that we've got the questions out of the way. This has been great, by the way. I love working with you guys because you're such a wealth of knowledge, not just in your own specific markets, but also just real estate transactional as well. Always work with somebody who has a long history of experience, not just book smarts on what they've heard people say. So any last minute things you guys want to throw out there? I think we probably have covered it all.
Well,
I
that's
would
what I was actually going to touch on as for the tips for buyers that are feeling weary or whatever. I would say, first of all, pick your agent. So unfortunately, a lot of times when people are moving to another state, they're just on Zillow or Realtor or whatever they're looking on, and they're looking at houses and they reach out to any old agent and they don't do any research on who the agent is. Do they have experience? Are they brand new? Do they know what they're doing? What's their reputation? I'm primarily a listing agent on my team, so I handle the vast majority of listings. And when you get, 5, 10, 15, 20 offers on a listing and they're all coming into your inbox, the way some agents are presenting the offers are terrible. You get no information. They just forward a link to you. Oh, here's an offer. And then other agents are fantastic. They will give you information about the buyers. They'll make sure in the subject line that you can really get attention to it. They're attaching the proper documents. They're following up with a phone call saying, hey, did you get my offer for my client? Do you have any questions? I'm going to have the lender call you and fill you in on, how well qualified they are. They have 20% down. It's liquid funds. We'll give you proof of funds. So it's a big, big difference in who represents you. And then we have a big bag of tricks, like Chris was saying, if you can afford it and if you want to, waive the appraisal contingency, have your agent run the comp so you know about where you're going to be. But we get a lot of waiver of appraisal contingencies that win the transaction. The other thing here, seller rent backs after closing are pretty big because a lot of times people are moving into maybe to another state or even in town, but they need some time after closing to get out of the house. So what's winning a lot of ours is give the seller a month or two free rent back. We get that a lot with a security deposit. There's a whole bunch of tips and tricks you can pull out of your bag.
Yeah, and I think to tack onto that, Faith, is communication is, look, we expect professionalism, right?
Yeah.
That's the base. Communication has to be on target. The more that you can find out from the listing agent, being, as a buyer and as the agent that's representing you as the buyer, the more you can find out from the listing agent about the seller. Why are they selling? Where are they going? What's important to them? What's motivating them? Because a lot of people think, now granted, cash talks, right? But there's a lot of scenarios where somebody's been in a home for 20, 30, 40 years. Sure, they want as much money as they can get, but that's may not be the primary factor. A lot of it can play into emotional. They want to see a family come in that's going to take care of the house, that's going to continue on, that vision, but also that will be a good fit for the neighborhood with these neighbors that they've known for decades. And so don't always assume that it's the highest price that wins every time. That's not true. So find out what the sellers are looking for, what the motivation is, and how you can kind of, get in with something that's a little bit more on a personal level that may make up for something that you're not, the highest on with the offer price or, things like that. So it really can go both directions.
Yeah, because if it's a vacant house, then if you can close fast on a vacant house, then obviously that's more appealing to a seller.
For sure.
So,
yeah. Diane, did you have something?
I would just say don't delay if you want to take advantage of these historic rates. I'm in the camp. I think the Federal Reserve is going to do at least 3 or 4 movements up this year. They have to. We can't sustain what we've been doing. So there, if you can buy, do it now. If you can invest, do it now. And you'll look back at this period. Chris so aptly said, even if you're paying a little bit more than you think you want to pay for a property right now, that interest rate difference of 50 or 75 basis points will wipe that out in what you'll pay in your mortgage. So if you're on the fence, I'd say go in all the way, put both feet in the water, align yourself with a great, reputable and hardworking agent, not someone who is just doing this part-time, but someone who has great relationships with the other agents in their community, because sometimes that is also the difference, the trust factor between colleagues. So those are my 2 points I wanted to make. Thank you.
Well said. 100% agree.
And to piggyback one more thing on what Faith was saying, for our office, I do a good portion of our listings. We have some other listing specialists, but one thing that we do is we keep a track of every listing appointment that we go on and whether the home actually gets listed or not. And a good portion of the listing appointments we went on last year, nobody listed them. So we're leaving that as a kind of a off-market, I don't want to say pocket listing, but it's someone we know who's expressed interest in selling that has not taken the step to put their house on the open market, and that's creating opportunities for our buyers that if they're looking in a certain area, we can go to that list and go, hey, I don't know if they're wanting to sell right now, but there's a pretty good chance we may get you an off-market property and get to bypass a lot of this stuff with multiple offers. So
Great point,
get with somebody
Chris.
who's busy. Because they see a lot. They've got great relationships with the agents around their area, and you'll find something good working with somebody who's got their ear to the ground for you.
Busy, passionate, and loves what they do.
Yep.
That's what I mean. You would want to work with anybody in any capacity, right? That has those qualities. So, okay, we're coming up at the hour mark. Can't believe we timed it just about perfectly here for 60 minutes. And we have a quick comment here from Samuel. Scott, this has been the best, most informative webinar you have done to date. Wow. Thank you,
Awesome.
Scott, Chris, Diana, Faithful. I can't take credit for that. I'll give the credit over here to my wonderful panelists. Guys, thanks so much again. Any questions for myself, our services, introductions, contact information for our panelists, or anything you need, info@leavingthebayarea.com, info@leavingthebayarea.com. And of course, we will have a copy of this recorded webinar in a week. Feel free to email us to get a copy and pass that along as you will. So guys, thanks again. Hope everybody has a wonderful day. Look forward to staying in contact.
Bye.
Thank you. It's been
Bye, guys.
fun.
God bless.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Take care.